what you wanna say.
Let's come to the vestibulocochlear nerve. It is eighth cranial nerve and it emerges from the groove between pons and medulla. Between pons and the inferior cerebellar peduncle in the medulla there is a groove emerges from the anterior surface of the brain. And then it laterally goes into this posterior cranial fossa to enter into the internal acoustic meatus along with the facial nerve, and then there the branches are distributed. This nerve is completely sensory nerve and it has just special somatic efferent fibers which are made up for hearing and balance. It has two components, the vestibular and the cochlear component. Vestibular is a separate nerve and the cochlear nerve is a separate one. Look at this picture. It shows the cochlear nerve which is the separate and the vestibular nerve which is separate, and on entering the pons they merges with each other to form the vestibulocochlear nerve. This highlighted part shows the vestibular component of the nerve. It has utricle, saccule and the semicircular canals, and this part has the organ of Corti. This is called the cochlear part, and from this the nerve emerging from this part makes up the cochlear nerve. Now coming to the nuclei of the nerve, we have vestibular nuclei in separate and cochlear nuclei in separate. There are four vestibular nuclei, which is superior vestibular nucleus, inferior vestibular nucleus, medial and lateral vestibular nucleus. And we have two kind of cochlear nuclei, which is anterior cochlear nucleus and posterior cochlear nucleus in the course of the cochlear nerve. The ganglion of the nerves, it has vestibular ganglion in the course of the vestibular nerve, which is present, and it is comprising of the cell bodies of the nerve cells, and the spiral ganglion of the cochlea, which is present in the organ of Corti and cochlea, and has specialized nerve cells, and these are otolith organs. Now this picture shows us the anatomy of the internal air present over here, and this bulbous part, this is the vestibular part. Let me show you first this, and let me circle highlight it like this. It's the vestibule and this one is the cochlea. Okay जी, from the cochlea जो भी nerve cochlea से जा रही है, this one is the cochlear nerve, ठीक है, and जो भी नर्व इस वेस्टिब्यूल से आ रही है यहाँ पे एक गैंग्लियन बनाती है, विच इज द वेस्टिबुलर गैंग्लियन. यहाँ पे सेल बॉडीज मौजूद हैं, ठीक है, और फिर इनके सेंट्रल प्रोसेसेस ही वेस्टिबुलर नर्व बना रहे हैं. लुक एट दिस वेस्टिबुलर नर्व, पॉन्स और मेडुलर के बिल्कुल दरमियान में यहाँ पे ग्रूव है, यहाँ पे जाके एंड हो रही है, एंड देन कॉक्लियर नर्व इसके बिल्कुल पोस्टीरियरली मौजूद है. दिस इज द एंटीरियर सरफेस ऑफ द ब्रेन स्टेम. ओके, तो इसके पोस्टीरियरली यहाँ पे जा रही है कॉक्लियर नर्व. अब पॉन्स के अंदर जाने के बाद ये दोनों मर्ज हो जाती है, जिसकी वजह से विच इज कॉल्ड, इट्स द नेम इज गिवन वेस्टिब्यूलोकॉक्लियर नर्व. अच्छा, अब ये जो वेस्टिब्यूल पार्ट है इसमें दो बल्बस पार्ट्स हैं. दिस बल्बस पार्ट इज द यूट्रिकल and this bulbous part is the saccule. This is saccule. दोनों utricle और saccule जो है, these are otolith organs. These have hair cells which detect the changes in the linear movement of the head. And these, ये जो circles है ना, ये हैं सेमी सर्कुलर कैनाल. ये इस तरह नहीं बनी होती, ये 3 डायमेंशनल होती है. आप यूँ समझ लें एक्स एक्सिस, वाई एक्सिस और जी एक्सिस पे सिचुएटेड है, और हर एक्सिस से कुछ ना कुछ चेंजेस ऑफ द हेड की, क्योंकि मूवमेंट पता चल रही है, यहाँ पे भी हेयर सेल्स है, इस वजह से. सो सेमी सर्कुलर कैनाल्स टुगेदर गिव द चेंजेस इन द रोटेशनल मूवमेंट ऑफ द हेड. सिमिलरली व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट द कॉक्लिया, these have organ of Corti. इसको organ of Corti भी we can say, and it have spiral ganglion. It have the cell bodies residing in that, and the central processes of it coming from the cell bodies, the central processes of it makes up the cochlear nerve. So now it's the time to discuss the afferents coming from this vestibular nerve. ये internal ear का, this is the part of the internal ear, this is the cochlea and this is the vestibule, and vestibule has the semicircular canal which is situated in a 3D manner, and it has utricle and saccule. The utricle and saccule are the otolith organs. They sense, they have the hair cells which sense the linear, the changes in the linear movement of the head, and the semicircular canal detects the changes in the rotational movement of the head. It has some hair cells which detect basically. तो यहीं से vestibular nerve is emerging. During its course into the internal acoustic meatus, there is present vestibular ganglion, and vestibular ganglion has the cell body of this nerve. So the processes emerging from that makes up the vestibular nerve. तो जो vestibular nerve है, इसके पास से afferent fibers जो निकल रहे होते हैं, they are some of the afferent fibers directly bypassing the vestibular nuclei. इससे सिर्फ गुजर जाते हैं. They do not synapse, they do not relay over here, they directly go to the cerebellum via the inferior cerebellar peduncle. And some of the afferent fibers do relay there, and the efferents goes to the cerebellum via the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Some of the afferents are coming from the cerebellum to the vestibular nuclear complexes. You can see here it's terminating over here. Also some afferents are coming. They are basically a combination of ascending tracts and descending tracts. The ascending tracts are short, and there are long descending tracts. So when we talk about the descending tracts, some of the afferent fibers do not cross on passing to the vestibular nuclear complex through the lateral vestibular nucleus. The fibers, the efferents do not cross, and they goes to the spinal cord, forming the vestibular spinal tracts. Okay, and then there are some of the efferents which are synapsing and relaying and are connected to the nuclei of the oculomotor, trochlear and the obtusant nerve via the medial longitudinal fasciculus. ठीक है जी, मीडियल लॉन्गिट्यूडनल fasciculus से पास होते हुए ये कनेक्ट हो जाते हैं इन cranial nerve 3rd, 4th and 6th cranial nerve के nuclei से, because of which there is head to eye coordination. ओके जी, आपकी विजुअल कोऑर्डिनेशन होगी विद योर हेड मूवमेंट्स, इसी वजह से होती है. एंड ऑल्सो सम efferents गोज टू द थैलेमस. थैलेमस के जो है वो posterior ventral posterior nucleus की तरफ, and also to the cerebral cortex where is present the post central gyrus, which is the vestibular area. So now we are talking about the tracts that are coming, the afferents and the efferents that are coming from the cochlear nerve and going from it. We are not talking about this vestibule part. We are talking about this cochlea. Okay, so cochlea has the spiral ganglion in which the cell bodies are residing, and the central processes of that is making the cochlear nerve. When it goes into the pons, this one is the inferior cerebellar peduncle, and we have two kinds of cochlear nucleus, which is the anterior cochlear nucleus and the posterior cochlear nucleus. This is the posterior side, this is the posterior surface, and this one is the anterior surface. So this particular pink circle is the posterior cochlear nucleus, and the nucleus anterior to it is named as anterior cochlear nucleus. Now when the the cochlear nerve goes into the pons, it divides into two branches. One branch goes to the posterior cochlear nucleus and one branch goes to the anterior cochlear nucleus. Both of these branches, now if second order neurons are coming from this nucleuses, when the branch goes to the posterior nucleus, posterior cochlear nucleus or the anterior cochlear nucleus, there emerges another neuron which is named as second order neuron. After synapsing over here in the nucleus, there emerges a second order neuron. This second order neuron goes to the trapezoid body of the same side and the trapezoid body of the other side as well. Okay, and here not only the trapezoid body, not only the nucleus of the posterior nucleus of the trapezoid body present, here is also superior olivary nucleus present.
After relaying in that, the second order neuron, now the third order neuron starts. So this one is going on both the sides. This process is going on both the sides. इसी तरह से posterior cochlear nucleus में जब आती है branch और वहाँ से second order neuron निकलता है, तो वो same side की trapezoid body में भी जाता है और वो सेकेंड ऑर्डर न्यूरॉन्स अपोजिट साइड की ट्रेपेजॉइड बॉडी और सुपीरियर ऑलिवियर न्यूक्लियस पर भी जाते हैं. एंड फ्रॉम दैट नाउ इनिशिएट्स द थर्ड ऑर्डर न्यूरॉन. थर्ड ऑर्डर न्यूरॉन्स जो है वो लैटरल लेमिनिस्कस बनाते हैं. फ्यू ऑफ द न्यूरॉन्स गोज टू द मिड ब्रेन. मिड ब्रेन में भी इंफीरियर कॉलिक्यूलस में, विच इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल इन द ऑडिटरी पाथवेज. And few of the third order neurons relay into the nucleus of the lateral lemniscus. Few of the third order neurons directly goes to the medial geniculate body. और कुछ न्यूरॉन्स जो कि inferior colliculus तक जाते हैं मिड ब्रेन के, वो भी कनेक्ट हो जाते हैं to the medial geniculate body. This is going on simultaneously. This can happen like this or that way. But if the final neuron is going to be is going to terminate in the superior temporal gyrus in the primary auditory cortex of the cerebellum, which is the area 41 and 42, also named as the area of Hassel. The gyrus of Hassel and the superior temporal gyrus. And there is also a secondary auditory area in the brain, जहाँ पे हमें जो प्रीवियस साउंड्स होते हैं उनकी रिकग्निशन का पता चलता है. सो इन चाहे पोस्टीरियर कोक्लियर न्यूक्लियस पे जाएं फाइबर्स या एंटीरियर कोक्लियर न्यूक्लियस पे जाएं, द neurons, the second order neurons are going to go in both side of the trapezoid body.